You are 19 years old. Not long ago, war still sounded clean to you. It lived in headlines, speeches, flags in the town square, and older men talking about honor as if it were something solid you could carry home in your hands. It sounded distant then. Sharp at the edges, maybe, but still distant. Now, you are on a military train packed with boys who look just like you, wearing the same rough uniform, holding the same rifle a little too tightly, pretending not to notice the silence inside the carriage. The air smells like coal, damp wool, sweat, and fear. When the train stops, the first thing you feel is the cold. Not the kind that wakes you up, the kind that settles into your clothes and stays there. You step down into a world that already looks exhausted. Crates of ammunition, horses shifting in place, stretchers moving past, men covered in mud from the knees down, some talking too fast, others not talking at all. Nobody here looks surprised to be miserable. That is the first thing that unsettles you. Then you start walking. The road disappears almost immediately. Soon it is just broken ground, shell holes, shattered boards, and water where solid earth used to be. Somewhere ahead, artillery pounds the horizon. The sound does not resemble anything from the life you knew before. It does not sound like thunder. It does not sound like gunfire. It sounds like the sky itself being torn open. No one around you flinches. That frightens you more than the shells. Then you see the trench. You had imagined something military, something orderly, defensive walls, strong lines, some visible shape of discipline. What you find instead is a wound in the earth, a long, wet scar cut into mud and reinforced with rotting wood, sandbags, and whatever else could keep it from collapsing. You climb down and almost lose your footing immediately. The floor is not really a floor at all. It is mud, standing water, loose boards, scraps of metal, old tins, and the stale smell of men who've been living too close to death for too long. That is when war stops being an idea. A man passes you in the trench, older than you, but not old enough to look like that. His face is hollow. His eyes are set too deep. He glances at your clean skin, your new boots, your stiff posture, and gives you a look that is not cruel, just tired. First day? It is not a question.
You nod anyway. He moves on. You keep walking. You see rats moving between the boards. You see a soldier asleep sitting upright, somehow sleeping through distant shell fire. You see another man bent over a letter, trying to keep the paper dry in the damp air. You see someone else stare over the parapet for only a second before dropping back down, as if even looking out for too long invites something in. You are shown where you will sleep, if sleep happens at all. A narrow patch of wood and mud barely large enough for your body. A place to lie down, not to rest. By the time night falls, you understand the first rule of this world. You are not here to live bravely. You are here to endure. Your first watch begins in darkness. You lift yourself carefully, just enough to see over the edge of the trench. Beyond you lies no man's land, the blasted strip between the lines, a place churned apart by shell fire until it barely resembles land at all. Craters, broken posts, torn wire, pools of black water, fragments of trees, nothing whole, nothing growing. The wind moves across it and brings a smell with it, one you do not understand at first because your mind does not want to understand it. Rot. Not from food, not from animals, from men. You swallow and say nothing. Next to you, someone lights a cigarette. The flare lasts only a second, but in that second you see his face and realize how quickly a person can be worn down into something harder and emptier than fear. Around you, the trench never truly goes quiet. There is always some sound pressing against the dark. Footsteps in mud, a cough, wood creaking, a distant voice, a prayer spoken too low to hear, the tiny movements of rats. Then, every so often, the crack of a shot somewhere out there in the black. At first, every sound reaches into you. Later, you will learn that the real danger is when it stops. You lie down after your watch, but your body will not let go of itself. The trench is too wet, too cold, too alive with smells and noises. Your mind keeps wandering across the field in front of you, imagining the men in the other trench doing exactly what you were doing now. Riding home, shivering in the dark, waiting for morning, waiting for orders. They are your age. They are afraid too. And when daylight comes, one side will be told to go forward and the other will be told to hold. That is all it takes. Morning comes, and with it, work.
The trench is always falling apart. Water gathers, walls slump, boards shift, mud rises. So you dig. Everyone digs. A trench is not something built once and finished. It is something that has to be fought for every day, even when no attack is happening. You drive your shovel into the earth again and again until your shoulders burn and your hands go numb. Sometimes the mud swallows the blade. Sometimes the water seeps back in as fast as you clear it. Nothing here stays fixed. Nothing here stays dry. Food comes when it comes. Sleep comes in fragments. Letters from home become more important than almost anything else because they remind men that another world still exists somewhere beyond the wire and the shell fire. Some soldiers read them over and over until the paper softens at the folds. Others stop reading too carefully because home hurts more once it starts to feel unreal. Days blur. You begin to understand how this place works, not the politics of it, not the maps, not the speeches that sent you here. You understand the smaller system, the one that actually matters. Keep your head down, do your turn, keep your rifle clean, learn the sounds, learn when incoming shells are still far enough away to breathe, learn when to drop, learn how to eat quickly, sleep quickly, and stop asking when this ends. The trench teaches you a new form of time. Time is no longer counted in days. It is counted in bombardments, watches, rations, repairs, and the distance between one order and the next. Then the order comes. You are going over. No speech can make it noble now, not after what you have seen. The men around you check their gear, tighten straps, grip rifles, look anywhere except at one another for too long. Nobody needs to explain what waits outside the trench. You have all seen the ground already. You have seen what shell fire does to earth, wood, wire, and bone. When the moment comes, you climb, and the world becomes noise. You run because everyone is running, because stopping means blocking the men behind you, because the open ground is worse than the trench, and the trench is worse than any place you ever thought a human being could survive. Mud drags at your boots, shells tear up the ground ahead and behind you, men vanish into smoke, into craters, into nothing you can process fast enough to name. You do not think in sentences anymore, you think in fragments. Forward, down, up, move, breathe, don't stop. This is the part no poster could ever tell the truth about. Not the fear, not the confusion, not the way the world shrinks until survival is the only thought left standing. And even when you live through it, something does not come back with you. That is the real wound. Because by the time you crawl, stumble, or fall back into whatever shelter you can find, you already know something with terrible clarity. The war is not waiting to decide whether to change you. It already has. The boy who boarded the train with sore feet and borrowed ideas about glory is gone. In his place is someone who now understands mud, hunger, exhaustion, shell fire, and the dull miracle of waking up one more morning. You do not win this war in a single charge. Most of the time, you do not win it at all. You survive a day, then another, then another. And in the trenches of the First World War, survival is not a small thing. It is everything.